Welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. Brian McFadden, co-founder of Legit Football. It is Friday, April 7th. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Easter weekend is here. If you're watching on YouTube, Anthony did not disappoint. He's got some Easter-themed graphics up behind me. What do you say we go ahead and get this party started? I'm going to bring in my partner in crime, Phillip Fox, because all true gentlemen need three names. Coming live to us from vacation in Florida.
That's right. I'm happy that you guys had me, even though I was on vacation. They were like, hey, take a day, go be with family. And I was like, are you kidding me? You think I'm going to miss a chance to talk about football? Not happening. I'm here.
I was like, Kevin, can you keep doing it from Florida?
That's what it's all about, baby. That's what we do.
No, you got to admire the dedication. For those that are joined from the live TikTok, Kevin has not missed a beat, put out his regular videos and doing the live before the show. It's Friday. That means we are once again joined by our friend from Down Under, Adrian Revito, at what is a much more reasonable time for him.
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. over here. Just me with my measly two names. Sorry, audience. Not a true gentleman over here, but I'm excited. Let's get it, boys.
There we go, baby.
Welcome, guys. Obviously, we're doing a little bit of an Easter theme. Main topic: NFL Easter eggs. This was also Kevin's idea. Kevin, you've had a few of these. You've been coming up with the main topics recently.
I absolutely love it. Very conceptual minded. I think those little fun pathways to create awesome conversations are always very exciting. So I'll do it forever as long as I have a chance to.
So the idea behind this is we obviously want to do something Easter theme, NFL Easter eggs, but we're not talking about necessarily the Easter eggs that the kids go and find with the chocolate and the candy and the money. Sometimes there's money. The gold one always had money for us. I don't know. Do they even do Easters in Australia, Adrian? I don't even know that.
Is money a thing? Yeah, but they absolutely do Easter. But we never got money. It was always just two names, just chocolate for Easter. This sucks over here.
Yeah. I was actually just saying on the TikTok live before we jumped in the show, for us, it was like there was golden eggs. And if you found the golden egg, there would be like a 20 in it.
Oh, 20. I was like, we'd get like $1, but
yeah, my auntie was real generous with those. Appreciate you, nice. Aunt Rob. Appreciate you.
But it was the same thing. It's funny. Obviously, Kevin, you grew up in upstate New York, and I grew up in the southeast United States. But we had the same thing. Various color Easter eggs. There's a silver one that usually had either a more premium candy or maybe 50 cents. And the gold one had $1, Adrian, and then everything else had candy. But Adrian's like, no, Australia, there's no money to be had.
I mean, look, I don't know if it's just my family is cheap or Australia is cheap, but I'm joking. Shout out to my parents. No, they're awesome. But yeah, we don't do that here. We do the Easter egg hunt 100%, and we celebrate Easter pretty massively. It's actually at my house this year. So that's exciting. Yeah. So
moving up in the world.
I'll take the credit. My wife's doing all the work. Let's be honest there. But yeah, no, we do celebrate, but no money. Sucks.
Well, the idea behind today's main topic is NFL Easter eggs, but like the Easter eggs for your favorite shows or movies. Takedo, always nice to see you in the chat.
Give him a shout out. We love Takedo.
Got to give Takedo the shout out. But today's Easter eggs are like the hidden, under the radar, in this case, NFL moves. So the three of us are going to name a few moves that we think are Easter eggs, like you see in like comic book movies and franchise, whatever. But it worked with the theme. So we're going to roll into that. But as always, let's start, guys, with our legit headlines. These are our top stories from the Legit Football newsletter over the last few editions. And we'll start in Kansas City, where not a surprise, but still notable that running back Isiah Pacheco is locked in as the Chiefs' starting running back. The insight comes from ESPN's Adam Teicher, who adds that the Chiefs have, quote, big expectations for Pacheco in 2023. As a reminder, as a rookie last season, Pacheco totaled 960 scrimmage yards, including 830 rushing and 130 receiving, 5 touchdowns on 183 touches from 11 starts. If he sees just a 30% increase in touches, and here's a little bit of fantasy nugget, Kevin. We had our fantasy episode earlier in the week.
Very fun.
Just a 30% increase in touches and maintains his 5.2 yards per touch, he'd total over 1,200 scrimmage yards in next season. This is a little bit of a no-brainer, Kevin, but still worth talking about.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm actually really glad we're talking about it, because one of the things that I love discussing on this show is, practice versus philosophy. And I feel like one of the things that we're seeing with Isiah Pacheco is, do late round running backs keep their jobs despite production? And it happens all the time. And I remember Phillip Lindsay was a great example, because I loved Phillip Lindsay. I was very surprised when he got the axe at the time he did because I thought he was productive. And I was very nervous of that happening to Pacheco. I mean, obviously, I have him in Dynasty, so there's a little bit of a vested interest. But obviously, as a Bills fan, I want to see the Chiefs crash and burn. But I wanted Pacheco to get to work because he's a stud and he deserves it. And I'm happy to hear that they're affirming him. I'm hoping that this isn't smoke. This time of year, there's a lot of smoke reports, but this seems pretty tight. This seems pretty airtight that Pacheco's going to get the first crack, which I think he deserves. So fingers crossed that this is like, per the name of the podcast, legit news.
And I think it makes sense. His game really picked up from week 10. He showed, he delivered in the situations in the Super Bowl. Now for a rookie to be able to kind of keep your cool. One particular point I want to bring up about him is at the end of the Super Bowl where he took that slide just to sort of stop and allow him to chew the clock out. Like that's not the kind of thing that's not the kind of decision making you normally see a rookie, let alone a 7th round rookie make. I remember reading a thing at the time where he could have spent his life telling his kids he scored multiple touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and instead he took a slide, allowed him to chew the clock, effectively won him the game, really, because I think that the Eagles might have charged back down the field if he went in. I think it makes sense, and like you said, I hope he gets his shot because he showed it.
Yeah, 7th round rookie, and here's a shout out to Legit Football. Wanted to look back on when we first started mentioning Pacheco, and it was an August 4th edition of Legit Football, a full month before the season started. We were on this guy as a 7th round rookie who was just lighting up training camp for Kansas City. A lot of us, I know, at least I can speak for myself here, have been looking for that next Andy Reid running back. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. We're like, oh, this is the guy. Okay. And that did not pan out. And we've seen a number of other running backs have some level of success. But I think Pacheco has that skill set, that determination, that just very physical, like almost beast-like running style that I think really works well for this offense. He actually told Teicher, Pacheco did, that he is actually working to become a more patient runner. Like he is just a freight train when he gets the ball, and better pass catcher as well. So it looks like we haven't even seen the best of Pacheco, which is very exciting for Chiefs fans and people who have shares of him in fantasy, like Mr. Phillip Fox over here.
Yeah, I'm definitely super happy to hear that there's some, there's a drum beat for Pacheco. And I was hoping all along. I mean, like I said, philosophically, I mean, everybody always says there's so little invested. XYZ, yada, yada, yada. I am not a fan of that debate. I think all the time great players make great plays and they show who they are on the field. And that's what you should pay more attention to than anything else, I think.
Let's stick with running backs and go to the number one clear-cut running back prospect in this rookie draft, and that's running back Bijan Robinson. And let's start talking about teams that might be linked to him. In this case, the New England Patriots are, quote, absolutely intrigued by Texas running back Bijan Robinson. The insight comes from The Athletic's Jeff Howe, who signaled that the Patriots want to get more explosive on offense. New England ranked 26th in total yards last season. Robinson, who is seen as a generational talent, would amp up the Patriots' offensive attack and take pressure off the team's underwhelming passing game. Across 12 games in 2022, Adrian, he totaled nearly 1,900 scrimmage yards, 1,580 rushing, 314 receiving, and scored 20 touchdowns. Do you like the fit in New England?
I like the fit, but if I'm being honest, boys, I don't think it's going to happen. And the reason is, look, Bijan Robinson, right? I think everyone just consensus number one running back in the draft. I'm sure both of you would hate to see him in your division, but I just think about Bill Belichick. It doesn't seem like a Belichick move. Their last first round running back was Sony Michel, and admittedly helped them win a Super Bowl. Other than that, their first round skill position drafts are pretty low. N'Keal Harry, which was a complete bust, and not skill position, but offensive Mac Jones, because an absolute need. But I don't know, it just doesn't seem.
They drafted a guard, which a lot of people had like a 3rd round, Cole Strange, a 3rd round grade on. So yeah, I'm with you, Adrian. It doesn't seem like their MO.
Yeah, and look, it'd be good for him to get. I really hope Mac Jones gets a proper chance because I feel like he got done pretty dirty last year with Matt Patricia. So I hope he gets a chance and I hope he gets some weapons around him. This would really help him out. But I don't know. I don't see the fit. I see the fit, but I don't see the fit because big bad Bill.
Yeah,
I want to tee you up with a question here, Kevin.
Sure.
So we're gonna do some mock draft stuff here in the next week or so. We're trying to figure out when, but I want to go ahead and start talking about Bijan. What do we think his floor is? The Patriots are picking at 14. Would he even last until pick 14? I know he's a running back, but this isn't just any running back.
Yeah, I appreciate you teaming me up with that because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. Because philosophically, again, no running backs in the first round. It's irresponsible asset allocation. Blah blah blah. Don't care. He's Bijan Robinson. Okay, he's got the Saquon effect. He's got the McCaffrey effect. He's going to come into the league and be special. And whatever team gets him is really lucky. The Patriots are interesting because of their situation with Ramondre Stevenson. I think Ramondre Stevenson's a fantastic running back. I really like him a lot, and I've been liking him for fantasy. So if Ramondre becomes the thunder to Bijan's lightning, I mean, he's Bijan Robinson. I just don't really see him taking a backseat to anyone. Like I don't really know what that would do to both of their fantasy values. I think it would cap the ceiling for both of them. And as far as real life success, of course it's a great fit. It's an amazing fit. You know, the Patriots, they're darn good. They know how to use running backs. So I would hate to see him in New England as a Bills fan, but as a Patriots fan, I'd be stoked. And as far as the Mac Jones thing goes, Adrian, I don't know, man. Is it can I throw these on and say that he's a bust, or is that too controversial? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know what the glasses are. You like trying to hide behind your take there?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I get that. Thank you, Anthony.
Maybe too soon. You could be right though, but it's just he flashed. So his first year rookie year, he was the best rookie QB. Not that there was a whole lot to go against, but he had the Trey Lance, out the Zach Wilson, no problems at all, and Trevor Lawrence will give him a gimme because of his coaching situation there. So, but look, that said, I know Robert Kraft loves some Bailey Zappi, so they might not give him much leash. So
yeah, I think the thing with Mac Jones was never a question about floor. I think it was always a question about ceiling, and I think we're starting to see his head bump up against that ceiling, and I think it's really frustrating the fans and the front staff, the head staff of New England enough to potentially float his name out there in trade talks. So that's going to be a fun one to track in the coming weeks. That's all I'll say on that.
I'm going to do a lightning exercise real quick before we move it on to our next legit headline. I'm looking at the teams. I have the draft order in front of me of teams that could be Bijan landing spots ahead of New England. I just want to get each of your take on this. So we got, as much as I don't want the Falcons to draft him for Tyler Algier purposes, we have to at least include them in that. They're at 8. The Eagles at 10. I sat Howie Roseman off to the side when I took over as GM for draft night, and I drafted them at 10. So obviously I love that landing spot. Titans at 11. We know how much Vrabel wants to be a physical run-first offense, and we also know that they've been shopping Derrick Henry. Even if they keep Henry, why not draft the heir apparent now? I think that's in the New England 14. I don't see any of the other teams. So, but that's 3 teams right there.
Cardinals question mark?
Ooh, if they trade back.
If they trade back, yeah.
3 would be insane.
That's actually...
That's a good point, though.
I wouldn't like that for fantasy purposes. For Bijan, I mean, he's still produced, but they don't have a great offensive line. They have the worst roster probably in the NFL at this point. Yeah. So it's like you're
Connor's
just going...
miss. So
yeah, Connor is going into age 28, so it's hit or miss or not. From a need standpoint, it's obvious. Yeah, but I'd rather him go to a team that is set up to be successful, and he just kind of takes him to the next level.
I did actually really like all the landing spots you mentioned. I think Atlanta's probably the least likely, given again, for lack of a better point to make. I mean, asset allocation when you're that far back, when you're not a Bijan away, so it kind of would feel like you said, a luxury pick. And I don't really think that you can afford a luxury pick when they have as far to go and they're trying to support a second-year quarterback like Desmond Ridder, who has some growing to do. The Titans, I think if they drafted Bijan and they still had Derrick Henry, that would be the best backfield of all time. And the Titans have done that before with who was it? Was it Murray? No, that was the Eagles. They paired Murray and another stud. I forget who it was.
Oh, DeMarco Murray?
Yeah, when they I think they both rushed for 1,000 yards. I don't remember who it was that they paired DeMarco with. Maybe it was Ryan Matthews. No, he was at the end of his rope at that point. I don't remember, but I wouldn't put it past the Titans to do it because of, like you said, Mike Vrabel's philosophy.
I haven't seen them linked with him, but just looking at this draft order, the Titans are just sitting there. I don't think this is the year they get a quarterback. So why not spend on a generational running back?
Maybe look for a team to leapfrog the Pats at 14 because, I mean, that's the kind of player you.
Yeah, but who's going to trade for a running back? Even one is great. As Bijan, that's my question. I think he's worthy of taking that, but who's actually going to pull the trigger? I was talking with my co-founder of Legit Football, Joe, earlier today. He mentioned the Bills. He keeps seeing them like the Bills is a great landing spot.
I was going to say that
the Bills would have to trade up to get him.
13 probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they should for the record, but I wouldn't be mad at it. I'd probably buy his jersey.
True.
But it would be ludicrous.
I might buy the Bijan jersey even if he goes to the Bills.
Yeah, he's just that kind of player.
Gentlemen, we have gone a few episodes without talking about Aaron Rodgers, but we can only go so long. And there was a juicy article in today's Legit Football. Just to reiterate, we don't generally associate ourselves with rumors for the sake of rumors, but we felt there was enough validity to this, or at least enough of a conversation to put in today's Legit Football. And that is the San Francisco 49ers have been linked to quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Fox Sports 1 radio host Craig Carton, who, for the record, I've never heard of him. Just throwing that out there.
Great name.
It is a good name.
Strong name.
Gotta love the alliteration. I'm always a fan of alliteration. So also Craig Carton. He's a carton of information.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Is claiming that the 49ers are preparing to pursue Aaron Rodgers if the Packers deal with the Jets fall through. Sorry, Rich Joe Dice Pro Football Demon, if you're listening, that would absolutely crush
all
his
Jets
world.
Fans, I know.
According to Carton, San Francisco would give Green Bay multiple 2023 third-round picks and a 2024 first. When confronted about the accuracy of his report, Carton said, quote, "I don't put it out there for attention. You saw the correspondence I got. I'm not a clickbait guy. People that don't know me nationally can say whatever they want. I don't care." One final note on this, Kevin, before I get your thoughts.
That's a baller way to put it.
Rob Demovsky from ESPN, who was one of the most plugged-in beat reporters for the Packers, said a very credible source did say earlier this week that the Packers could consider trading Rodgers to a different team. Didn't mention the 49ers, but a different team if talks don't progress with New York.
I think makes sense. I mean, we've talked about before the way we clean up our language for this show. It's a poop or get off the pot situation. I mean, seriously, we've been talking about this.
It's an Easter show, especially. We got to keep it PG.
We got to really keep it clean. But
for all the kids who are between their Easter egg hunts watching Legit Football Pod.
But seriously though, it's been at least a month since we thought it was close. I mean, whenever free agency began, it felt like a certainty before then. Oh, it'll happen by then. Oh, it'll happen by here. And like, it's not happening. And if I was a Jets fan, I'd be panicking.
The McAfee thing was like a month ago at this point, right?
It's insane, dude. It's been so dragged out. And I get teams digging their heels in. I get teams, ascribing their worth or whatever. But at a certain point in time, either the deal gets done or it doesn't. And then you have to figure it out from there. I mean, pick up the pieces. I mean, that's a nice haul for Green Bay if they can pull that off.
And, I know San Fran tried to get him a couple years ago. I know they called just before the draft and Packers gave him a firm no. So he's from the Bay Area. It's the Bay Area, right? I'm not saying
Correct.
that. Correct. All right.
Yeah, a little bit. It's Northern California. He grew up a 49ers fan. It's not the Bay Area proper. It's a little bit more north of here.
Yeah, close enough.
Close enough for somebody in Australia. It's all California. The whole state's the Bay Area.
He lives in LA, bro. He lives in Hollywood.
All of America is the Bay Area. No,
it'd be a better country if it was. Oh, but
hey, whoa.
But I don't think. Look, I know the Packers would want to trade him in the NFC, but to be honest, it makes sense from the Packers side to just to put it out there to say, yeah, we're open to other options. Gives you a bit more leverage, and we talk like the word leverage gets thrown around in this discussion like no tomorrow, and they need a little bit because the reality is I don't think either has a lot. So this gives Packers a little bit of an edge, and if I was a Jets fan, I'd be sweating whether it's true or not.
There is a bit of a deadline here, guys, because we're assuming that at least some of the compensation would be from this year's draft. Well, this year's draft starts in 20 days. It's less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks as of yesterday. So there is a little bit of a ticking clock here, and the Packers might just get to the point where they're like, I don't want to wait till draft night. I want to make sure I know what my compensation is so I can plan accordingly. There's a planning element to this. Whether they trade them with the Jets or someone else, they need time to craft their draft board, figure out their strategy in advance of April 27th. So we will definitely be following that. One more legit headline before we jump into our Easter egg main topic. Chase Young, haven't talked about him a lot. Former number 1 overall pick. According to the Athletics' Ben Standig, the Commanders will likely have to choose between extending Young or Montez Sweat, not both. According to the Athletic, same thing. Ben Standig, Commanders team will have, if they choose Sweat, then Young could get traded. Sweat is entering the final year of his rookie contract, while Young is under team control for 2 more seasons if the Commanders pick up his 5th-year option. Over the past 2 seasons, Sweat has totaled 13 sacks and 17 tackles for loss in 27 games. Young, on the other hand, same span, only 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles across 11 games, less than half. Adrian, do you think there is validity to this? Should the Commanders entertain it? Standig thinks Young could get a first-round pick in a trade to Washington.
So I mean, if they got a first-round pick, I think they'd be stupid not to take it. Like his injury plagued, as you just sort of mentioned, he's missed about half of his games. I think, look, it would take away from real strength of the Commanders, which would suck for them. But if you look at it right now, they've got 2 years on your rookie contract. He's probably about as valuable as he's going to get to trade away. By next year, you only got 1 year left. He could be injured again, and then after that, can't see him getting anything for him.
And if he has a 3rd year that's underwhelming, you're right. It's like, okay, maybe this guy isn't so good. It'll be a lot harder to get that high compensation.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like he's he's a far way away from his defensive rookie of the year. But I think it makes sense for them to move on while you can get something for him. Particularly, look, talented as he is, and he is talented. If you only get him for a 30-year games each year, like, wouldn't you rather, particularly a first-round pick? If they get a first-round pick for him, I'd be super shocked.
I agree with Adrian. I mean, first-round pick is what do they say in the draft? They say run up to the podium with the card. If it's whatever you do for a trade, run to file that paperwork. I mean, get that trade through, because that's nothing against Chase Young. I think he's a great player, but at a certain point in time, Adrian made a great point. There's a certain level of reliability that just you could tell at a certain point in a player's career, like if it's just not there, if they're just not that person, you see it all the time in sports where like everybody's propping up this dude like he's a superstar, but we've seen him play 5 games. Like, I don't personally really get it with Chase Young. I mean, yes, the defensive rookie of the year was legit, but he's past that point now. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as we know, in terms of like availability.
Yeah, I think teams got to balance, right? Because sometimes we get attached to, as a fan, you get attached to a name, and you want him, you love the guy, you want him to play, but they've got to balance what they can get for him. And right now is about as valuable as he's going to get, unless he just like knocks it out of the park next season.
You're also not in a position as the Commanders to necessarily compete for a division or let alone a conference title. You got 2 very seemingly better quarterbacks than any of the ones in this draft coming out next year. Your quarterback situation is still up in the air. You can say you believe in Sam Howell. He started 1 game. Jacoby Brissett is going to be nothing more than a bridge quarterback. Why not trade him for a 2024 first and have extra leverage to possibly go up and get one of those quarterbacks if Howell doesn't work out this year? I'm with you guys. Unless you're seeing something in camp or you're talking to him and you see him and you think he is going to be that true game wrecker that they thought he would be when they drafted him number 1 overall, yeah, I'd say if you can get a first for him, especially if you can use that collateral for next year's draft and get in the sweepstakes for one of these top quarterbacks, I like that.
Yeah, and I think if you're a championship contending team or a team that's looking to add some big pieces, it's also not bad to take a swing at him. I mean, he's still Chase Young. I mean, he still has that talent. It's just if you're Washington and it hasn't materialized and you have to pay Sweat, who has proven production, then you know what to do at that point. Like, I feel like you have to pull the trigger there just to preserve the opportunity to capitalize on an asset, an potentially expiring asset, especially with no 5th-year option.
I think there'll be multiple teams. I think there would be multiple teams willing to throw a first, especially a future first, for somebody of that caliber. Because if it hits, then a first overall is worth it for a guy of that physical capability.
Yeah, that top 5 pedigree that doesn't expire anytime soon. It's gets you a long leash in the league.
All right, guys, let's get to the fun part. It is now time for our
Main topic.
Nice.
There you go. It took a
Very
few
nice.
seconds, but he got there. All right, as I mentioned at the top of the show, main topic today, Easter-themed NFL Easter eggs, meaning what are some moves that have gone under the radar, some moves that, of course, got announced, but hasn't been talked about a lot. Certainly, we haven't talked about it on this show. Kevin, you're on vacation.
That's right.
You're relaxed, and I'm going to let you kick this party off. I think we're going to, Anthony, let's come up with like a randomizer way going forward, because now that Adrian's on every Friday and Jimmy's on every Monday, I feel weird who do I start with? So I want to have some sort of randomizer for next week. All right, I'm going to give that homework to our producer, Anthony. But Kevin, so we'll each go around a couple times. Give us an NFL move that's a bit of an Easter egg because it's kind of gone a little bit under the radar.
Absolutely. I'm going to start off with the one that actually inspired this for me, which was my first big thought about this was I'm telling you right now, you guys, what the Dallas Cowboys paid for Brandon Cooks to me makes that a very, very Easter egg type move. I think CeeDee Lamb is a great wide receiver, one, and I think Brandon Cooks is a great wide receiver, two. And we talked about it a million times. He's Mr. 1,000 yards. I mean, it doesn't really matter what he's up against, as long as he's healthy for 16 games or even close to it. He'll put up 1,000 yards, and I think he's got years left. His game, I think, will age gracefully. Now, I absolutely love that we clarified that this was more like the Easter eggs from like a movie or TV show. But if I were to liken the Brandon Cooks trade to Dallas, I would say it's kind of like. Can you see it?
Oh, Bunch of Crunch.
It's Bunch of Crunch, right? It's a classic.
Good candy. It is classic. Great movie theater snack.
Best movie theaters. You get a little popcorn, a little Bunch of Crunch. So that's the classic. I'm gonna leave that one for my classic Easter egg move. And but if we're doing Easter candy, but
speaking
that's
of movies, I'm gonna go see the Mario movie with my kid during spring break next week.
I saw it.
You saw it?
I was a wreck.
Heard nothing but good things. Did you say stopped? We've lost. Have we lost?
Did he freeze? Did we freeze? No, there he is. He's back.
There
He's still alive. He
did not get lost me again. No, tell me you didn't lose me again.
You froze for a good 5 seconds, but
PTSD.
We never posted that picture.
I need to see it.
I need to post the picture on social.
All right, who's next?
What was the price they paid for the cost? You talking about the trade compensation or what they signed him for?
Wasn't it a fifth or a sixth?
It was the trade compensation you're referring to.
To me, that's like nothing at all. When you're getting I don't know if Cooks was ever All Pro, but he was certainly Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and he's had 1,000 yards for like every season for the last every full season for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think Cooks is I think he's perennially underrated because of his. He's never been on like a great team, I think. So, except for the Patriots, I guess he was technically.
Go ahead, Adrian.
He's talked about a trade candidate like every year for the past 3 years. Like, I don't understand why. Like he is 1,000 yards every season. You can just bank it.
Contributes so much to his
totally.
Team. Yeah.
And I love CeeDee Lamb. He's still wide receiver one. But I'm just gonna throw a little take out there. You put Brandon Cooks with a good quarterback. I'm not gonna say it's impossible that he outdoes CeeDee Lamb. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like hold my feet to the fire next year, and we'll look at this again. And I'm sure I'll look stupid, but I'm just gonna say it. Like he's had terrible QBs, terrible teams, and he's still delivering 1,000 yards. If you ask me, when it comes to sort of a great wide receiver, they make it work no matter what their situation. That's what makes the difference makers. And then there's a really good receiver who needs a quarterback to sort of help them get there. I think that Brandon Cooks has been delivering the goods despite a terrible situation. So I'm just putting it out there. Maybe he outproduces CeeDee Lamb.
Hot take.
What if you knew that he was turning 30 at the start of the season? Does that change that hot take at all?
Yes. No, I'm sticking with it.
Well, here's why I asked that. Cubs 30 is not washed up for a wide receiver, but one of the things that Cooks has always been able to rely on is his speed. And that's the one thing that we've seen start to diminish at around age 30 for wide receivers. So that's my one concern is he's a very good wide receiver, but can he be as effective as he's been in the past if he loses a step? Although, I mean, the great Deshaun Jackson was still fast at like age 34, 35. So maybe we're gonna let Adrian keep that one, and we'll revisit it later.
I'll hold on to
I love the nature of the hot take, Adrian.
In the
That's
pocket.
the kind of bold takes that we need on this
We
show.
We do.
We do.
Plant your flag. Plant your flag.
100%.
All right, Adrian, you're up next.
Young.
Let's hear your first NFL Easter egg.
So my Easter egg it's going to seem not under the radar, but I think that the Bears got a lot of pop because their first round trade, their first pick trade, and it kind of sneaky flew under the radar that they've done a lot to build their defense already. They had a terrible defense last year. Now the one that obviously, and I know Kevin does not, this didn't go under your radar, but Tremaine Edmonds, obviously they paid him the bag. That sucks for the Bills. It's amazing for the Bears.
Tragic.
They took TJ Edwards. He's coming off a career year. And I think if you look to their defense last year, right, they were ranked last. Actually, pop quiz. Do you guys know who the leading sacker was for the Bears last year?
Oh,
I'm sure you won't, because it is a rookie safety, Jaquan Brisker, who had 4 sacks.
Jaquan Brisker led the team in sacks.
That's
wow.
disgusting.
No D lineman had more than 3 sacks last year. So you get TJ Edwards. They got DeMarcus Walker, who had a career year last year as well. My Easter egg is that Chicago, who have already got a haul of picks as well, have already improved their defense. I'm not gonna say tenfold. That's an exaggeration, but I would say it's already 3 to 4 times better just with those pieces. And they've still got room to move, and they still will. I think they'll still address more needs in the draft, but we talked a lot about what they got for that first round pick, and they got DJ Moore, but their defense is already on the way back up.
I love that. I think that's a great call.
Yeah, can't argue with that. All right, so I've got a few directions I can go in here. I'm going to toss it up to you guys. I've got 2 player signings that as Easter eggs, and then 2 coaching nuggets as Easter eggs. I got 4 listed here. What direction should I go in first?
I think you should go coaching, because I think that's probably going to be more off the wall than me and Adrian's approach. So I'm excited to hear like the choices for those. I think that's interesting.
Good. That was where my instinct was
good.
Lying.
Love it.
So you guys know that my team so far in the offseason has been the Atlanta Falcons. And so I'm going to start with every time I look into this team, it just gets me more excited. How about the fact that they hired Ryan Nielsen as their defensive coordinator? It was previously was Dean Pease, who Arthur Smith brought from Tennessee. Ryan Nielsen was the co-defensive coordinator for the Saints last year. He was with the Saints since 2017. The Saints defense ranked 2nd against the pass and 5th in total sacks in 2022. The Falcons defense under Pease, 27th in total defense, 25th in pass defense, 23rd in run defense, 23rd in scoring defense, and 31st in sacks. So we've already mentioned when we've talked about their offseason player moves, how much better this defense looks just from their offseason signings. You add into the fact, and I'm a huge believer that coaching matters. So you add in a guy like Ryan Nielsen, who is already shown to have success, has moved up the ranks. He's played in the NFL briefly as a defensive lineman, so he has that experience. And has been a part of a lot of successful Saints defenses, actually was the co-defensive coordinator last year under a very good Saints defense. And now he gets to take this newly more talented Falcons defense and mold them and make them more successful on top of everything else Atlanta's done this offseason, short of the quarterback position. To me, this is something that has completely flown under the radar and something that will greatly benefit the Falcons' chances of success and even possibly winning the NFC South next year.
I love it. I think I agree with you. This is definitely under the radar. In fact, when you said it, I was like, "What? That happened?" So they were a terrible defense last year. I do love an ex-player coach. I feel like you hear it a lot when you hear about coaches. There, this leader of men. And when you're an ex-player, you know how to speak to players. So I think it's a great move, great Easter egg. Nailed it.
Yeah, I think champion's going to champion Brian, and you have your team that you're championing, and I have mine. I might get to them in a little bit, who knows? But I respect that you are that's as much of a flag plant as you can do. We're using our platform to shine some light on these.
I think at some point we're gonna have like our teams that aren't our teams segment, right? Because obviously the Bills Dolphins, Packers, always going to be number one.
Yeah.
But we should talk about at some point, maybe
I
closer
like
to the
that.
start of the season, like what teams are we like tracking, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody was tracking the Lions last year, understandably, and I
Definitely.
can't fault them for that. But yeah, definitely going to revisit this, and I know who your team is, Kevin. So
Oh yeah,
eager to
love
hear you
that.
talk
Love
about them.
that other team. Yeah, I think, Mr. Bryan, I think the take on the Falcons defense come up is huge, and they weren't particularly that. I mean, their defense was, they were kind of just the most like mid team ever last year. Like they were, I guess, other than quarterback position where they were putrid, but they did little things here and there, in every phase last year. And now, if they stabilize the quarterback position, if Desmond Ridder can go out and be like basically what Kenny Pickett was for the Steelers last year, he can go out there and just sort of manage games and not turn the ball over, which he didn't do in his couple starts this year. Then yeah, I think the Falcons are definitely ascendant. And Ryan, is your champion status for the Falcons contingent at all upon them evolving at the quarterback position, or are you comfortable with rocking with Ridder?
I think because of the weakness of that division, they can compete and did compete with Mariota and Ridder.
They were 7-10.
They finished 7-10, but they were in the hunt
nuts.
for the NFC South at the very end of the season.
They're a game away from being the new 500. They're a game away from being right in that 500 range. So
I'm going to mention one. This is actually one of my other Easter eggs, but I'm just going to tack it onto this because it is relevant. Yeah. Talking about the NFC South, we've talked previously about the Bucs. They lost Brady. That's a huge drop. As much as we like Baker, and I know Adrian's a fan of Baker, it's a drop. Panthers remains to be seen. There's a lot of things up in the air. They got rid of their top receiver, but they have a lot of draft. They got the number 1 draft pick. That could turn around new coaching staff. How about the Saints? We just talked about Ryan Nielsen getting hired away from them to be the defensive coordinator for the Falcons in division. They replaced him with Joe Woods. Joe Woods was fired as defensive coordinator of the Browns because the Browns defense ranked 23rd in defensive DVOA. So you have the Falcons getting better by adding Ryan Nielsen, and you have the Saints, at least on paper, getting worse by hiring a worse defensive coordinator, a guy who had a fairly talented Browns defense, and that Browns defense just did not play up to their standards. That, to me, is coaching. So these tie in together. Falcons get better, Saints get a little worse.
And you've been collectively, or I would say consistently, on the lower side of the Dennis Allen spectrum. You're not as much of a
as a head coach.
believer.
He hasn't done anything yet. He says he has a losing record as the Raiders head coach. He has a losing record as the Saints head coach. He's been a fantastic defensive coordinator, but it's so much different once you're running an entire team. Ask Todd Bowles.
Yeah, exactly. We might be looking at one of those situations. And I think a lot of people have been patient with Saleh, but we need to see the Jets tide turn, I think, this year before we, take that label off of him too. But yeah, I think that's a great place to jump into my next Easter egg moves, if you guys are cool with it.
Totally.
Just roll with it, man.
Now, I wanted to do you guys know I love my bits. It's kind of like one of my favorite things about doing this NFL stuff, because it's very fun. So I'm a diehard Bills fan, and I always will.
Really, we didn't know.
You can't tell. Whenever I have a chance to highlight, and it's interesting because we joke about being homers a lot, and I think it's never been easier to be a homer for me. It's not hard for me to be a homer. It's not hard for me to justify the things that my team does, because they're very fundamentally sound in recent years. They're very well.
Good time to be a Bills fan.
I don't know if you guys have been feeling the same way that I've been feeling, but this offseason had the potential to be a wheels falling off and rolling down the street type situation. And I felt like Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and everybody has kept their cool. They've maintained their resolve. They've kept preaching what they always preach in terms of culture. And that's something we love to see. And we're now looking at right around the corner, we're looking at a situation this offseason where, you have cleared out the front yard of Easter eggs. There's none left. You've cleared out the backyard of Easter eggs. There's none left. But there's that little area between your house and the neighbor's house. And there's like a little, you know what I'm saying? And
crevice.
In that crevice, there is a golden egg staring at you. And that's the fact that Brandon Beane, for several years, has been playing hardball with Jordan Poyer. And it's been reported that, 2 years ago when Poyer, fired his agent and brought in Drew Rosenhaus, and Poyer was testing the safety market, and his spot rack value was north of 12, 13 million. And Brandon Beane said, we really hope we can get him back. We really hope we can get him back. We really hope we can get him back. And I decided to roll with some sour Starburst minis as because
he's got actual candy props. I love it.
This offseason has been sour. Like losing Tremaine Edmonds was not fun. The way we got sent home last year was not fun. We've puckered up a little bit, us Bills fans. But these are mini because no move is the splash move. No move is the Von Miller move. But we are stuffing our face with Jordan Poyer back for $6 million a year for 2 years. He's going to finish his career next to his safety running mate Micah Hyde in Buffalo. Damian Harris for $1.7 million. Letting Tremaine Edmonds walk, which hurts so bad, but the comp pick formula that I talk about a lot is going to yield the Bills a third-round pick next year. And that is worth its weight in gold at this point in the team for, where they are in their life cycle. So I think I'm stuffing my face with some Starburst minis. And, I don't have a massive crunch bar. I don't have a king-sized Reese's or any of that fun stuff, but I have a handful of little Starbursts that I'm really enjoying.
Well, let me ask you this, Kevin. Yes. And Adrian, feel free to chime in here too. For me, if I went through Easter, and look, mini Starburst are perfectly fine.
Delicious.
All delicious. But if I don't at least have one, like peanut butter filled Reese's, like bunny or like it's a loss for me. So that's my question with the Bills. And Easter is if you don't get that golden egg, if you don't get the payoff, it's a perfectly fine Easter, it's a perfectly fine off season.
Yeah.
But it's not memorable. It's not one you talk about years later.
Yeah, it's almost sort of like I would say for this, it's like we're looking at, your auntie's making the stuff she makes every year. You got the ham with the pineapple slices.
It's the same auntie that gave $20 in the gold egg. Okay,
exactly. My family does it right. Shout out to my aunties, man. And but so that stuff is still good. That's Josh Allen. That's the top 5 DVOA defense. Like those things aren't going anywhere. If you don't find the golden egg, you are sad. You see your cousins counting their money, you are sad, and you have no money, and you have some Starburst minis. But there's always next year for the golden eggs, and What about you, Adrian? Am I crazy?
You got
here?
the Chiefs down the road with the big old giant, variety pack just full of chocolate. You got the Bengals,
big bunny, the sickeningly big.
You got
bunny
the Bengals with the just giant bunny, right? That people
just
you eat the whole thing and it's hollow, but you eat it for like 2 weeks because it takes you that long to eat it. And then the Bills have their mini Starburst.
You're not wrong.
I think there's a couple of teams in the AFC, the Bills being one of them, where I hear what you're saying. You want your peanut filled Reese's Pieces, but the Bills have got a cupboard full of it. They don't need to wait for Easter. So I think they're one of those teams.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point.
My guy,
they're sitting with their monocle and their chocolate fountain, looking down. Like, look at these kids chasing $20 bills.
I like it. He's not wrong.
Fair enough. I'm convinced. And on that, Adrian, let's get to your next NFL Easter egg move.
All right, my next move is a little less sexy to non-Packers fans. So I'm going to pull the homer card here as well, as I do like to do.
I love it.
But this move has gone under the radar for sure. So the Packers, I'm going to try to avoid saying we. I wish I had a sound drop just to like buzz me out when I say we. I'm going to try and talk objectively. Packers have had historically poor special teams units. So they were dead last in 2021. They were 26th. In 2020, and they haven't had a top 10 unit since 2007. And even then they ranked 7th. So one position that just like as a Packers fan has always let me down is the returner, kick returner, punt returner. Now they had Amari Rodgers last year, lost 4 fumbles over 10 game stretch, and then he gets cut. But before they cut him, Rich Bisaccia, who's come in and improved the unit, brought in Keyshawn Nixon. And if you're listening and that name means nothing to you, it will this year. He came in and just immediately took over the return, led the league in kick returns, first team All-Pro kick returner, averaged 28.8 yards return average, and that's the highest in the league. He's an absolute stud. And on top of that, the team love him. They've talked about putting him in the nickel spot. They've talked about using him on offense, and they've just re-signed him now. It's only a 1-year deal, but you're paying $4 million for a player like that who's come in. You can use him in different ways. I think he's a steal, and I think that Packers fans would have been devastated to lose him. And I think I think he has flown under because he came in the league as a nobody, And then about week 8, he came in and he just set the special teams on fire for the Packers. So re-signed Keyshawn Nixon.
Aaron Rodgers news. Jordan Love, Christian Watson. How about some
Who
special
needs it?
team re-signing
I like that.
news?
Tell me about
That's
it.
what you get here on the Legit Football Podcast.
Within the spirit of the exercise, for sure.
100%.
Yeah,
'Cause,
Keyshawn
yeah.
Nixon. That's an Easter egg move because who even heard about that? Like I knew who he
Totally.
was because I watched a lot of football and he was electric. He was great. So to know that he's locked up and you guys have Keyshawn Nixon for a little longer, you guys are going to get to have your fun on special teams. And if they go the Patriots with Marcus Jones, was that his name? He stud returner who they put on offense a couple times. He caught a freaking 80-yard screen touchdown against Buffalo.
Yep.
Those kind of players are sick. Like that's dope that you guys locked him up because that's total Easter egg move. Good call, Adrian. That's a true egg. That one's hiding.
I mean, that one's like, it's a little less sexy, I know, but I've sandwiched him. I used him in the middle, and I've got a bigger one for my last.
Nice. Okay. Fantastic.
Nice. So I'll quickly get to my next one then. Little bit of possible fantasy implications here.
Here we go.
I have a couple player ones. We'll start with this one. I was trying to look for the thing with player signings get a lot of pop. So it was hard to find one. I like, Kevin, that your first one was Brandon Cooks because it was not the fact that they signed him, but the fact that the price that they signed him is what flew under the radar. But I wanted to find a player signing that I found interesting and significant, but that didn't necessarily get a lot of pop. And how about tight end Irv Smith signing a 1-year deal with the Cincinnati Bengals? This guy was a second-round pick in 2019. 7 touchdowns in his first 2 seasons in the NFL with Minnesota before he was plagued with injuries. Finally starts seeming like he's getting a lot healthier. Hayden Hurst had 52 receptions in 2022 with this offense. It doesn't matter that they have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. The tight end has a role in this offense because any talented pass catcher has a role in this offense. They like to rely on the pass now. They like to let Joe Burrow lead their offense. And Irv Smith is more from a talent perspective and certainly athletic perspective is a better tight end prospect at least than Hayden Hurst, even though Hurst was selected in the first round. So I think if he's healthy and he fills that same spot that Hurst did, I think he will outdo that production, have more than 50 catches, and Hurst only had 2 touchdowns. So I think this isn't getting enough pop, and I think if he's healthy and can play up to his abilities, then this is a really nice weapon for Cincy.
Could not agree more. This could be the tight end one that they've been searching for. A lot of people think maybe Hurst and Smith, it might be. Some people I've heard say lateral. Some people say downgrade. I think it's an upgrade, personally. I think Irv Smith.
I think the ceiling is higher for Smith.
I think that's higher. Athletic profile, what we've seen him do, I think that's a great signing, and it was under the radar. That was one that you had to dig for. I didn't even hear about it.
I just know it was 1 year. I couldn't even find how much they signed him for because that wasn't even announced.
Wild. Yeah, that's a great signing for them. And yeah, it's always nice to mix these topics up a little bit. Cowboys, what they paid, Adrian with yours. But I think this is, again, to the spirit of what we're talking about, I think that's textbok Easter egg signing.
Yeah, totally.
I want
agree.
you to send me your bunch of crunch as a prize.
100%. Well, I mean, if I were to liken that to a candy, I would say it's these. I would say it's, again, classic. We're sticking.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Sour gummies.
Oh, I've heard of sour gummies. I just haven't heard of that brand.
This is the go-to brand, but I think
you haven't heard of Trolley. Even I've heard of Trolley.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brian.
No idea. We always did the Sour Patch gummies and Sour Patch Kids.
Those are great too, but in the worm shape, they're just a little better. I don't know why.
I hear you. And saying even I like it was such a surprise is kind of a self-burner in Australia.
Yeah, really. We're not the ones. Hey, even the Australian guy knows about it.
So, Adrian, do you want to jump in with your last one before? Because I know you got a juicy one. I want to tee you up with because you had a nice little moment in the middle there, but I feel like you had your chocolate, you had your peanut butter. Let's wrap up on a chocolate.
All right, I appreciate you, Kevin. And look, I don't know if this is as juicy. Look, it's juicy, but it's not as under the radar. So I want to talk about Darren Waller to the Giants. Now, that is not by no means under the radar, all right? Because I think that got its pop. As you said, it's hard with skill position players. That's why sometimes you got to rely on kick returners, but skill position players get a lot of pop. Now, Waller, I want to kind of just look at the span of his last 4 years, right? So 2019, 2020, he had over 1,100 yards. He was in the Pro Bowl 2020. And then in 2021 and 2022, he was on John Gruden Raiders just before he got fired. And then on the Josh McDaniels Raiders, who I just don't believe in Josh McDaniels. I don't know if other people are higher on him than me, but I just don't believe in him as a coach. He moves over to the Giants, and the Easter egg part that I wanted to talk about here is what they paid for him, similar to what you were talking about, Kevin. So they paid a third round. This is their third round compensatory pick they got for Kadarius Toney. Now, they traded Toney, who was injury plagued. He put up 420 yards in 2021, and over a 7-game stretch, being thrown to by Patrick freaking Mahomes, he put up 181 yards, right? So they traded Toney, who was injury plagued, and really, I'm sorry, I know he's skilled, but I don't think he's got the production yet. And they get Waller, who he comes over to Brian Dable, who we know is tight ends coach for Gronk. I think he brought the best out in Dawson Knox. So I think he knows how to use a tight end. And I think it's sneaky cheap what they paid to get him because of those last 2 years. I think that's what's flown under the radar. He comes over. He's got 2022 Coach of the Year. He's this big safety blanket over the middle for Daniel Jones. Like, I really, really like this signing. I feel like I'm higher on Waller than consensus. I feel like people think he's dropped off, but I don't believe it. And I think he's going to have a monster year.
Well, one thing I want to add to that, talent-wise, 100%. I mean, he is their most talented pass catcher. It's not even close. I think a lot of people expect the Giants to address receiver in the draft, but at this moment, if he's healthy and on the field, it's Waller's offense as far as being the top weapon for Daniel Jones. But I'm looking at his injury history here, and it is just a litany of things. He did get placed on IR on November of last year with a thigh hamstring strain. The problem with those soft tissue injuries, they do tend to be re-aggravated, and he is. I don't have this in front of me, but I do believe he's approaching age 30, which makes it a little bit harder to recover from those things. Missed a number of games in 2021 as well. Ankle injury in multiple weeks, a knee strain at the start of or late into the 2025 season. That's my one thing. If he stays on the field, 100%. Like, this third round pick is a bargain, but can he stay on the field at this point in his career?
It's a good question, and so the Big Mac, baby. That's what it is. But look, I hear you on that, and it's a bit hypocritical of me to say Kadarius Toney's injury plagued when Waller's had his fair share of issues. I just think for what he paid, look, I guess what I'm saying is there was smoke for the Packers to pick up Waller before he got traded, and I was personally a bit crushed when he went because I want him.
He's already 30. He turns 31 like in week 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any question about Waller's talent. And I think what this comes down to is, philosophically speaking, we've joked a lot on the show because Brian has compared the compensation package for Waller to peanuts, and I've often said more like a cashew, more like a flavored almond. But that got me thinking: Am I overvaluing third round picks? So I've seen a lot of discussion about what are you paying for D-Hop? Will you throw a second? Will you throw a third? Yada yada. I've looked into it, and I don't know if this is true for your guys' teams. But if you take the laundry list of Bills' second and third round picks last couple of years, if you take one or two of those, I'm not losing my mind. I'm not losing any sleep over not having Boogie Basham. Right. No offense, fine player, but yeah, if we're talking about an all-pro,
not DeAndre Hopkins,
100%. It's not Darren Waller. Third round picks. Look, great GMs, they'll hit in later rounds. It does happen, but they also miss just as much in the later rounds. The earlier round picks, you want to have home runs. The third and fourth round picks, it's okay to hit a single every now and then, but you're not going to pass up on a home run for a single. You're not going to directly trade it off, so I am less and less mad.
And the Giants, it's a late third too, because they made the playoffs and won a playoff game. So I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, they're probably picking in the mid-20s. So at the end of the third round, essentially, yes, all day long
over that.
Trade that. Even if he doesn't end up panning out, that's worth a flyer for this offense that is desperate need of pass catchers.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that's a good call, Adrian. And you're right in terms of, again, the shine was there, but the value was definitely,
this is a ceiling move, even more than Irv Smith. This is a candidate for, at the end of the year, we look back and say that was one of the moves of the offseason. Look how much of a difference Waller made for this Giants offense, looking to expand upon what a great year they had in the first year under Dable.
It's like a pink or yellow or blue egg that you find that looks like it's going to have jelly beans in it, but then it does have like a dollar bill or like 50 cents. That's the Waller.
I'm gonna foreshadow. I'm gonna foreshadow. So this is Easter. It's Easter time right now. We're talking Easter eggs. Christmas time, we look back at gifts of the off season, and I feel like Waller's going to be on that list.
Love that. That's a good call.
Done.
That is
100%. Absolutely love it.
And Anthony's going to deck out the logo just like he did for Easter.
Totally.
It's really putting me in the mood, you guys.
It is.
Always delivers.
Gotta love it. Spring is in the air.
Oh.
Kevin, I have one more. I don't know how many you have. I have a quick one. Do you want to?
Up to you, because mine's quick, but you already know what it is, and I'm just excited to. Again, I would jump on the rooftop if I could and scream how much I love this team. So
then I want you to close it out with that, because I
Definitely.
want mine is just a quick little note, because the player doesn't excite me, but the fit does, and I'll tell you why. So, big Jalen Hurts fan.
Love him.
The 2 games he missed last year, this team wasn't the same, especially on the offense, and it has nothing to do with Gardner Minshew as a player. It has to do with the fit that Gardner Minshew has in that offense. They couldn't run the same offense, the Steichen offense, now going to be the Brian Johnson offense, with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, as much as you like Gardner Minshew. So what did they do? They went and signed Marcus Mariota to a 1-year deal.
Nice.
I've had my complaints about Mariota, especially as it related to Kyle Pitts, but he fits this Eagles offense so much better if they are without Jalen Hurts for any extended time. And by the way, all things aside, in a vacuum, I prefer Gardner Minshew over Marcus Mariota as a backup quarterback. But with this offense in particular, Mariota fits better with the RPOs, with the run options that they want to do, having a mobile quarterback. So I thought this really flew under the radar, probably because people are a little bit done with Mariota at this point. But just Roseman, like how this is a sneaky move that could end up benefiting the Eagles if they are without Hurts for a game or two, and they'll have a more competitive offense. They won't have to make as many changes. There'll be less disruption than when Minshew had to fill in for 2 weeks last year.
That's absolute facts. And even bad starters are starters. Like, this dude did just start a bunch of games in the NFL, and he did move the ball, especially on the ground, which is where Philadelphia.
Former number 2 overall pick. I mean,
Definitely.
we have the talent is there.
And that's where Philly makes their hay. So I think this is a great call, because I think Mariota, in a pinch, could go out and win a game for Philly just by not screwing it up. They're that good of a team. So I love that.
Totally. And he's sneaky good, ran the ball last year. He's 29. I just Googled that. I did not realize that he's under 30. He turns 30 this year, but still. Does it just feel like he's been around for about 20 years already? But
it's his 4th team now, because he's drafted by Tennessee, then went to the Raiders, then went to the Falcons, now with the Eagles. So once those players start bouncing around, you tend to think that they're much older than they actually are.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Brian. This is a sneaky good move as well, because pound for pound, I think Gardner Minshew is a better quarterback at the moment. But as far as the fit of the offense, couldn't agree with you more. Like, who you could slot him in, and he's never going to be Jalen Hurts, but you get someone who can run as well and kind of keep that threat as part of the snap. And who knows, you could at least win a game, maybe 2 games if you need him.
Especially if Mariota is handing off to Bijan Robinson. Okay, Kevin, we will throw it over to you. Still trying to will that into existence.
Right. That's your
take us home, Kevin.
I like that. I will take us home. Look, first of all, I did want to say, in terms of Mariota, I did say Mariota and Wentz both. We're gonna have the why won't you die moments with them. They're gonna be around for too long, and we're gonna get sick of them.
Jameis is from the same draft class as Mariota.
But it's just so weird, because Jameis somehow is just sticking around in New Orleans, which is like, he's not starting. He's got a broken back, but they're like giving him money. It's like, what's going on there?
He got LASIK. Remember that, guys? A lot of good that did.
Yeah, right.
I don't know about gonna have with Wentz. I feel like I've had that about 2 years in a row.
Wentz is, he's not signed, so that's one that's. I mean, he's going to be just watch.
Somebody will sign him. They'll need a camp arm at the very least.
Camp Arm is a great nickname for Carson Wentz moving forward.
Carson Camp Arm.
A little disrespectful, but I absolutely love it. Both 2nd overall picks, him and Mariota, kind of weird. Just throwing it out there. I don't know. Is Bryce Young doomed? Anyways, speaking of Bryce Young, my team, and this is one that I'm just gonna go right ahead and say it. Okay, I think we've talked a lot about all the off seasons, and I liked one off season more than every other off season, and part of it is given how far the team has to go. Part of it is given the flashier nature of some of the signings, a la Dalton Schultz. And then part of it is based upon the fact that they have the number 2 overall pick, and they may have lucked into Bryce Young. I mean, Bryce Young was the consensus one for a really long time. They traded the pick. Carolina ended up with that pick, and everybody knows Stroud is their guy.
I don't know. There's a lot of smoke. I read today that Reich wants Richardson now, but that the rest of the Panthers want Stroud.
Well, it's McCown, right? McCown and the quarterback's coach, right? It's
Josh McCown. Yep.
He loves Stroud, and like they're.
But I've also seen that people want that Reich wants Stroud, and other people in the Panthers office want Young. So it's like, I'm just saying it's not a foregone conclusion that Stroud is going number 1 overall.
That's going to be its own discussion, and I'm looking forward to it. But, whoever the Panthers don't take, you get a nice consolation prize at 2. I mean, if the Texans want to swing for the fences and go with an Anthony Richardson, I wouldn't even fault them. And I'd still feel the same way about their offseason as I do now. The Houston Texans, so that, like I said, they had their flashy moves, but their offseason to me is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, because it's the best, and you can't debate it. And like we said, when you're going through your colored eggs, you don't have any $20 bills, you don't have any 50 cents, but you don't. I mean, it basically is that, but it's
as good as it gets for Adrian and his fellow Aussies. So
right, that's all you got, Adrian. But but I mean, I could walk you through. I mean, I think the one I like the best that's going to go under the radar, apart from having the 2nd overall pick. I mean, you guys know how much I love Devin Singletary. I thought he was, extremely underrated. But I mean, so many of their signings, Jimmy Ward.
Are you like opening the wrapping for the?
Right, I'm just sitting here. No, I'm
like, is he about to eat it in front of us?
I'm just pulling up the list. We got Shaq Mason. I mean, that didn't really like Noah Brown, Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, Case Keenum. The Laramie Tunsil extension. Like, all of these things are like, they're not going to make headlines. Nobody's going to pick the Texans to win the Super Bowl. But this is where you go from perennial bottom feeder to potentially ascendant. This is how you do it, and you do
the division to do it in too.
Like I said, their pillowcase is full of eggs, and they don't have the gold one, but they have 50 Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and that's why the Texans offseason to me is and next year, if they really are in position to take that next step, they will get a golden egg, and maybe the draft pick at 2 is. We'll see, but that's something that I'm looking forward to figuring out. But that's, for the literal Easter egg metaphor, that is my trio there. And I think I've never been more excited for Easter in my life than I am right now.
I have a question for you both. Obviously, we've sort of talked about the first 2 picks. I agree with you. There's no consensus one. It's not like we've got Trevor Lawrence in this draft. But who do you think will improve? And I know that this is contingent on how they deliver, but who do you think will improve more, Panthers or Texans? If you had to pick who finishes on top next year.
Like, better than the other one, or who will take a
better than the other one?
Forward?
Better than the other. Or actually, you know what? Both.
Because better than the other one, Carolina's got a higher starting point. So, and they're in a worse division. Actually, the freaking Texans are in a pretty trash division.
Panthers are still more talented overall. They have a lot of young talent on defense.
Yeah, I think Texans are an off season away from being playoff contenders. I don't think they did enough to go from 2 seed to playoffs, but I think they did enough to go from 2 seed to, smelling the playoffs. Maybe they're in the hunt graphics at the end of the year, but they're, what were they, 3-14? That's a long way to go to get to the playoffs from there. If they double their win total, I'll feel like this season is a success, and I feel like they're poised to.
And that's the thing. I think I'm with you on this. I think the Texans, if you talk about improvement, I think the Texans are going to improve more. To go from picking to being even just playing meaningful games in December and mattering, and is a huge jump. And I'm with you. Look, I know they're your darling team. I'm not trying to steal them off you, but I like what they've done. I'm just like, I'm admiring from a distance. Don't get jolly on me.
I definitely won't get jealous as long as you don't start like buying jerseys and stuff like that. Like, we can all share our love for these two teams, but you do need to find a champion though, Adrian. You need to find a champion team.
I said it the first time I came with you guys, and it all depends on the trade, but I have to be back in the Jets next year. I have to.
Oh, I like that.
Following Rodgers.
Yeah. It would be. It'd be like those Patriots fans that hated Brady and hated the Bucks. Like, he done so much for your organization.
So silly.
Yeah. What do you the guy gave you like how many 6 rings?
That's just raw emotion.
6.
Yeah,
It's just sheer pain at that point. It's not healthy. They haven't processed their feelings.
but
By the way, I brought
up.
up the Panthers just depth chart in general, and I think Houston will make the percentage-wise the biggest jump, but I still think the Panthers will end up finishing with a better record. They've got some sneaky under. They just signed Eric Rowe, who's a solid piece who used to play.
They
for
were
the
contenders
Dolphins.
for my Easter eggs too.
Von Bell, Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin are their other safeties. J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson, C.J. Henderson, remember him, former first-round pick, fills out their secondary. They still have Derek Brown, Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson, and Frankie Louvu. That's just their defense. And we're not talking about, Miles Sanders. You guys have said Miles Sanders.
Miles
Obviously,
Sanders.
whoever they get at quarterback has to pan out. But Thielen, Chark, Terrace Marshall, maybe
That's a
not
nice-
DJ Moore level, but that's not the worst wide
Yeah,
receiver.
they're looking okay.
Do they have another first-round pick? Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought they did. Do they have a second first or no?
No, the Panthers don't.
They don't. Okay, because I was going to say that's the Texans I'm thinking of. Because they are going to need to bolster the wide receiver room. I mean, that's just not going to cut it right now.
And a lot of mocks have the Texans choosing, or I think they're picking at 10.
Yeah.
They have or maybe it's 12. Jackson Smith and Jigba I've seen put with the Texans a lot.
A rookie QB with him, that would be lethal.
CJ
And
Stroud,
Dalton
his
Schultz.
former QB. If that,
CJ, I'm telling you, I think Stroud's. I've drank the Kool-Aid on Stroud at 1 overall. That's gonna be its own.
I
thing.
have my doubts.
We're gonna have a lot to talk about with that.
It's April 7th. We got 20 days, which means we only have 6 of these episodes left. We're gonna have to start diving into more intense draft main topics. So I think we'll start crafting some draft main topics going forward. We're a little over an hour now. Any last words on Easter or the NFL in general, guys, before we wrap up the show?
Mine is just to say happy Easter to the listeners, but also to you both. I love coming on talking with you guys every week, and I end every week with a fluffy little this is awesome, but this is awesome. So happy Easter to you guys.
we all feel that way. Yeah, Adrian, I'm gonna encourage you to branch out and start putting some money in the Easter eggs, man.
Someone's got to start it.
Be a trendsetter in Australia. I love it.
I'm telling you, you go a little harder for those eggs, man. Me and my cousins got a little crazy for those golden eggs, man. We had some wrestling matches, so it's worth it, man. It's fun.
Love it.
Well, happy Easter to both you two fine gentlemen. Adrian, we love having you on. So glad to get you on every Friday, all the way from Australia, even at the crack of dawn from where you are in the future on Saturday. Have a great weekend, guys.
Definitely.
Enjoy some Easter candy. Try not to overindulge. We will be back here on Monday. Thanks for everyone who was watching or listening, and those of you who are in the chat. Make sure to like and subscribe if this is your first time. Shout out to Anthony Weiner, doing a great job with the sounds and the Easter graphics behind the scenes. This is Brian McFadden, and this has been the Legit Football NFL Podcast. We'll see you on Monday.